First, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. That would help me a lot. Thank you. And now what do we need for our top? We need very thin yarn and a big hook. So I'm using this yarn. It says it's for 2.5 millimeter hook, and I'm using a 15 millimeter hook. I already made other tops. This black one, I used this yarn. It says 1.25 to 1.5 millimeter. I used the 50 millimeter hook too. And this one, it's a little bit thicker. I used this yarn. It is for 2.5 to 3 millimeter, and I also used a 50 millimeter hook. So you can also use other yarn, other hook sizes, but it has to be a big difference between your yarn and your hook size. Then we need 4 stitch markers and of course a scissor. You don't need needles to weave in your ends, because we don't weave in our ends, we just let them hang, because you can't really weave in ends here. So for the distressed look, it's okay to just leave your ends like they are. And then let's start. We start our top with a foundation chain. And how long has this chain to be? That's a little bit complicated, but I think I found a way that's okay. Because this black one here, I think it's a little bit too long, but if you like it, how it looks like, I will write the number of chains and everything about the yarn in the description, so you find it there. So I think this is a little bit too long, and the light one, I think that's a little bit too short. So now I make a chain that's somewhere in between. And yeah, you can measure from one corner of your shoulder to the other corner of the shoulder, multiply this by 2, and also measure around your arm, shoulder, armpit area, so like an armhole, and multiply this by 2. And I think that's a good length for your foundation chain. I will show you a little picture what I mean. You can measure this with a measuring tape, or you can just hold your chain on your body. Best way is to fold it in half and then hold it from one shoulder to the other shoulder and around your arm, and then that's a good length. So I think 70 stitches could be a good number for this for me, but I have to see. So yeah, you make a foundation chain, a simple foundation chain. It's a little bit complicated just because of the thin yarn and the big hook, and make sure you don't pull your loops tight. It has to be a long stitch and a long foundation chain. So maybe this is not the perfect project for an absolute beginner, because you have to know how your stitches look like, and yeah, you have to be confident with your stitches. Otherwise, that's, I think, a little bit too complicated. So, yeah. As you can see, it does not go as fast as a yarn and hook that fits perfect. But yeah, you just make a foundation chain with the length I showed you, or another length you like. As I said, if you like your top very long on both sides, like my black one, then make it longer, that's okay. If you want it more like a simple top with a little bit wider armholes, then make it a little bit shorter, that's also okay. But yeah. I now have a foundation chain with 70 stitches. I can show you now the length if I fold it in half. So this was my beginning, this is my end. If I fold it in half and hold it from one shoulder to the other shoulder, and then the rest is like one armhole, and that's a good length. Now the first row is the most complicated row. We work in a round, so we have to connect here our last stitch with our first stitch. So, whoops. So we have to find, yeah, as I said, a little bit complicated. We have to find our first stitch. Usually you would make sure your chain is not twisted, but that's really complicated here, and our look does not have to be perfect, so it's no problem if there is a twist, but just make sure it's not completely twisted. So we make a slip stitch in our first chain, always in one loop here. Here is my yarn. In the first loop, a slip stitch. And now we can work in the round. We make double crochets. So in the first chain here, a double crochet. We start with a stacked single crochet. So first chain one for the very first here, and make a single crochet in this first chain. So this is the single crochet, and now we insert the hook in the left leg of this single crochet. This is the right, this is the left. We insert the hook in the left leg and make another single crochet on top. Always make sure you don't pull your stitches tight, make them very loose. And this is our first stacked single crochet, so the first double crochet of our row. And now we make a double crochet in every chain. And the best is you pull your chain here a little bit, so then you can see your stitches the best way. So double crochet here in the next chain, always in one loop, and always pull here a little bit. Next double crochet in the next chain. As I said, the first row is the most complicated. The next row is a little bit easier. And yeah, so double crochet in every chain. Yeah, as I said, pull the chain so you can see every stitch. So this is the next one. Yes, it's a little bit chaotic and messy, and yeah, but that's what we want here. next stitch. Now this is my last double crochet, so the double crochet in the last chain. And now we can finish our row with a slip stitch, but now we have to make sure that nothing is twisted. So and also check that you have the same number, the same even number of double crochets as your foundation chain was. And now so nothing here is twisted. And so I can make a slip stitch in the stacked single crochet. So this was this stitch and a slip stitch to close the row. And now we turn after every row. So turn. And now we start again with a stacked single crochet in the first stitch. So in the stacked single crochet of the previous row. So here we make a single crochet and insert the hook in the left leg and make another single crochet on top. And now we again, this is always the same row, make a double crochet in every stitch. And as you can see now, here it's a little bit easier because you can see your double crochets very well. You have different ways how you can make your double crochet, because we don't want to make them look the same. We want to have it a little bit messy. So one way, of course, so I have to check, this was my first stitch, so this is the next stitch. One way is a regular double crochet here in the next double crochet, so here on top through both loops. Oops. And make a double crochet, just a regular double crochet, nothing special here. Make another one here, next stitch through both loops and make a double crochet. As before, always pull it here a little bit so that you can see your stitches. Another way to make your double crochet is you only crochet in the back loop or in the front loop. So double crochet, and you have here the front loop and you have a back loop, and you can decide if you make a back loop here and make a double crochet here in the back loop. So it looks a little bit different because here the back loop and here are the both loops. So I make one in the front loop now, I just show you, you can then decide how you want to make it. Here, now we have the front loop. Another way is I want to make a lot of this stitches I show you now on this top, that you don't crochet in the loop, but in the space between your stitches. So here, not in the loop here, but in the space between your stitches. Looks this way now. So as you can see, I can show you. These are all double crochets, but it looks very different because of the way you crochet it. So I make another one. Oops. Now I destroyed that one. So again, here in the space between the stitches. And what you also can do is that you pull your loop, your stitch a little bit longer. So that for that you can crochet in back loop, front loop, in both loops, or here in the space. To show you here in the space. So you make your double crochet longer. So before you yarn over and pull through your loops, you pull it a little bit longer, and then you finish your double crochet. So as you can see now, it's a longer double crochet here. So this was the regular here in that space, and this is a longer one also in the space. And yeah, as you can see, it completely looks different just because how and where you crochet in. So now you make your row with all your stitches. Always make sure you have still the same even number of stitches at the end of the row. And yeah, you can make however you like it. You can make just one way, you can make it completely different. You can, as I want to make it, want to make a lot of here in that space, but also longer rows where I make the longer ones in the whole row, and sometimes make just in the front or in the back loop. You can however you like. You don't have to think about it. If it looks completely wrong, you are right in this project. So just have fun and play with your stitches. And yeah, as I said, don't think too much. And yeah, that's the way how we make it now for a complete length. So we just make these double crochet rows. We start with a stacked single crochet, and then we make a double crochet in any way in every stitch, and make a slip stitch after the last double crochet, turn and start our next row with a stacked single crochet. And yeah, we make this until we have our length, our desired length, for the back and the front. We don't have to make any armhole or something like that. We make that later. So you make this for your desired length. Completely just double crochet rows, super simple. Double crochet rows until your desired length. I will show you the end of this row and the next row too, but as I said, it's always the same. You don't have to think about anything. So this is my last double crochet of this row. As you can see here, again here if you pull it a little bit, you can see this is here, And this was my stacked single crochet here at the beginning. So we now connect the last stitch with the first with a single crochet, with a slip stitch, sorry, in the stacked single crochet. And now this was our second row. So we turn after every row. We make a stacked single crochet in the stacked single crochet of the previous row. No? So again, next try. Stacked single crochet and a stacked single crochet. And now again a double crochet in every stitch as before, however you like your double crochet. So in every stitch, and a slip stitch after the last double crochet, turn, and again the same way until your desired length for the front and back. Now this is the last double crochet of my last row I want to make. So I have my desired length now here for my top, and this was my last double crochet. So now I make a slip stitch in the stacked single crochet, and because I have my desired length I can fasten off now. So now I make single chain and another chain to secure this, pull them tight to secure it because I won't weave in my ends, and then I cut the yarn not too short because, as I said, I don't weave in the end. So this panel is finished, and now we can make chains, no, single crochets on our shoulders to connect the front and the back. So we make our neckline and our armholes. What we do now is we have our panel here. Where was my end? Here. We have to place the front and the back on top of each other. So, and the end and beginning of the row, so where the yarn tail was, I don't place it exactly here on my edge, but a little bit. Yeah. So I make my edge here, and the yarn end is here, so that this is not hanging exactly at the corner here. And now I place everything front and back on top of each other, so nothing should be twisted. So this is the other edge. And now, so I have my whole thing here from one end to the other end. And somewhere here in the middle, I have to check where the middle is because it's very long. So this is about the middle of this. And now I place a stitch marker on one panel, so front or back, it's both the same. This was my chain at the beginning, so we are working now here at our last row. And now I place a stitch marker in one of the stitches here. So, and now this stitch is exactly the middle of the front or the middle of the back. And now I have to find the stitch at the other stitch in the middle of the front or back. And I know I have 70 stitches, which means I now count 35 stitches and place a stitch marker in the 35th stitch, and this is the other middle. So here is my stitch marker, and now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 35. So this 35th stitch. So I place another stitch marker here. And now I have the middle of the front and the middle of the back here. I now count again on the other direction, or in the same direction. I continue to count in the same direction to make sure I really, so this have to be, I count again, and then the other stitch marker, the first stitch marker again has to be on my 35th stitch, so that it's really exactly in the half of my stitches, and then we can continue. So now I have exactly the same number of stitches on both sides of my stitch markers, and now I have to place more stitch markers for my neckline and my shoulders. So this is exactly the middle, and now you have to find your perfect neckline. I place my stitch markers and then I try it on if it fits, and if not, I place my stitch markers again on both sides in the same directions until I have the perfect fit for me. But now I tried with my neckline 3 stitches, or 3 stitches in both directions. So here's my stitch marker, both stitch markers, and 1, 2, 3 stitches in this direction. So I place stitch markers here. I just use 2 loops. So in both panels, front and back. I mean, of course, it's one panel because it's round, but in the front and in the back. So this is connected here now. so back and front or front and back. And now I do the same with the same number of stitches in the other direction. So again, I have to find my middle. It's here. And now again 3 stitches in the other, 1, 2, and 3. Place another stitch marker through both panels. And now this is my neckline. As I said, I have to try it on if it fits. If not, for example, if you have need wider neckline, you have to place your stitch markers 1 stitch towards the edge in both directions, not just on one side and not here, so in both directions, in the same in the same direction, both stitch markers. And then, so this is my left stitch marker here. So here's the middle, here's my left stitch marker, and now I have to place a stitch marker for my shoulder, because everything between these stitch markers, so between the neckline stitch marker and the shoulder stitch marker, we crochet together. So this is the seam on our shoulder. I try again, 3 stitches here, 1, 2, 3 stitches. And place the stitch marker again in both panels, front and back, and the same on the other direction. So here's my middle, here's my right stitch marker, and now also 3 stitches here to the right. So here 1, 2, 3, last stitch marker. So now I can show you. So we have here our middle, front and back. This is our neckline, or this will be our neckline. And then we have the stitch markers for the shoulders, which means these stitches will be crocheted together, and the same on the other side, the middle here, and the 2 stitch markers, and here we will crochet the stitches together. So this means now I try it on. If the stitch markers are on the perfect position for my fit, if not, I will change their positions, and if they have the right position, we can make our seams. I'm happy with the position of my stitch markers, so now I single crochet this together. So I start here on the left side, you can also start on your right side. So here are the stitch markers for the middle, and I'm starting here now. So I need my yarn. Leave the tail long enough because we don't weave it in. And then I attach my yarn in the stitch marker stitch and through both panels, or through front and back, because we crochet this together. So I attach it and make a single crochet. Make sure you don't pull it tight. Just leave it as it is. And now I make a single crochet through front and back for all stitches until the stitch marker stitch. So this here was my first stitch marker stitch, and now I make a single crochet in every stitch. Oh, what happened here? So make sure it's long enough here, not tight. And in the next stitch, and here's my stitch marker stitch, and I crochet this together too. So now here's a single crochet in every stitch, and then chain 2 and pull it tight and make a long tail and cut it. So these are now crocheted together here. And I make the same on the other side. So I turn it. Again, here are my stitch markers in the middle of the panels. And then here are my stitch markers I have to connect. So again, as before, I attached the yarn here. And make a single crochet and make a single crochet in the next stitches again until the stitch marker stitch. And this was my stitch marker stitch, so chain 2 and pull it tight, make a long tail, cut it, and now I can remove my stitch markers because it's finished. So this was the end of my top, and I show you how you can wear it. You can of course just wear it as it is now, but I recommend this to make it when you have it on. You can make knots on the side if you don't want to have this loop here hanging around. You can make a knot here on both sides of your top, and so under your armhole. Okay, now this is complete chaos here. Here's my armhole, and here with a knot or without a knot, how you like it. You can wear it, and yep, that's it. That was how you made this top.